For our next assignment, we're going to be doing some sculpting, and there are many ways to do sculpting, but we're going to start out with just a cube. And to do that, and part of the reason for starting with the cube is if you think of our head or our body, oftentimes we describe that in terms of like the side or the front or the top of our head, the back, etc., etc. And so this can be a good shape to start with. We're going to go to the modifiers and we're going to add a modifier and we're going to use the subdivision surface. And if we were doing game design or something like that, we might even use the multi-resolution surface, but for this assignment, we're just going to use the subdivision surface to keep it simple. And I'm going to, you can see it's already rounded, but we want a little more detail than that. Don't want it to be quite so blocky and chunky when we're sculpting. So let's bump this up, probably to 4. And then I'm going to apply that. And there's two ways to do that. You can either use the arrow right here and click apply, or while you're hovering over here, you can hit Control A and it applies it as well. And by applying it, it actually made a bunch of new vertices, and that means we have more geometry to work with when we're sculpting, and so it will look a lot smoother. Now, once we have that basic shape, then we can flip over to Sculpt Mode. And in Sculpt Mode, we're going to turn on a few settings. I'm going to be creating kind of a humanoid-esque type shape, so I'm going to turn on X symmetry because usually you have a left and a right leg, and left and a right arm, left and right eye, etc. So let's turn on X symmetry right there. And then I'm going to scroll across with my mouse wheel and I'm going to turn on din topo, which is actually dynamic topology. And we're going to turn that on, and we're also going to turn our shading back on to smooth. So see how that we lost our smooth shading. So we'll turn that on, and I'm going to set it to be related to the brush. So the geometry that this is going to create will be related to the brush size. And what's actually going to happen, din topo makes it so that when I start pulling and shaping and all that kind of stuff, it's going to create new geometry to keep the shape the way I want it to look. And let's go ahead and hit the number 1 key on the numpad, and it's time to start building. Now, for this first step, I want to actually pull out some arms and legs, and there are a couple different ways to do that, but oftentimes people use the snake hook. I personally think that looks kind of eh, but I'm going to use the grab tool, and then I'm going to zoom out a bit, and I'm going to line up right where I want the legs to come out. Once I'm happy with where it is, I'm just going to click and start pulling down. And if I need to, I'll click and drag again and pull it down some more. And then I'll do the same thing for my arms. So I'll grab where I want the arms to be, just pull them out. If I need to, repeat that as many times as I want to. Now, at this point, I'm looking and I notice that that looks kind of weird. So I'm going to double check and make sure, yeah, that looks okay. Okay, and line back up with the front. And I'm going to pull up a neck. And I think for now, that's going to be the basis of our shape, but it certainly doesn't look good. And so the other thing we're going to do is we're going to take these kind of spindly arms and we're going to inflate them. So I'm going to go find the inflate tool, and then I'll just click on that and we'll just inflate that arm until it looks about right. And I'll do the same thing with my legs. Inflate until it looks about right, and I can rotate around and fill it in on the back side too. Uh, so I'm going to add some little bit of bulbness to where the feet would be, and maybe a little bit to where the arms would be. And then we will continue shaping that in future installments. But notice I can just keep building on this until the basic shape looks the way that I want. And I really don't think those legs are thick enough, so I'm just going to keep thickening them. And once I'm happy, then I can continue on. Okay, but we still have this stub of a neck, so I'm going to line right up at the top, and I'm going to just create a head up here. And just keep doing that. Okay, so once I'm happy with the basic shape, remember this is not going to be a human character, it's going to be a humanesque, humanoid type character, so I'm not too concerned about the proportions at this point. And once I'm happy with how it's looking, then I can continue on to the next step. So there is our basic starting shape. If you didn't like the way something came out, remember that you can use the smoothing tool. So there's a smoothing tool here. Be careful about how much strength it has because it will definitely make some changes quickly. So be real careful with using the smoothing tool. You can see even at a low setting, it really decimates things quickly if you're not careful. But it does help get kind of the shape, and you can get a sense as to what the actual shape is that you're working with. And then in future steps, we're going to start worrying about some of the details and how we're going to, make that look the way we want it to look using some of these other tools. Until next time.